let's bring in our joyful economic warriors, Forbes Media Chairman and Editor-in-Chief Steve Forbes, and Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder Steve Moore. Beauty before slightly lesser beauty.
But no match for you.
No, I was not looking for a compliment. Number one, politics of this. It is not totally unprecedented, but the fact that the Federal Reserve would cut interest rates this close to an election is a little bit fishy.
Well, it's also a political mistake. It was very clear if they were going to do something, they could have done it this summer or even this spring, or wait till after the election. They have a meeting in November, just days after the election. They could have done a big one then, and no one could have accused them of playing politics. And that doesn't even get into the Fed's peculiar way of fighting inflation, which is by deliberately depressing the economy. And we don't need that. And that's what I hope Donald Trump, when he becomes president, will go after the Federal Reserve. The way you're looking at the world is all wrong. Prosperity does not cause inflation. Excess money creation and devaluing the dollar causes inflation. And that the government can cure, but doesn't seem to want to.
No.
Am I cynical in thinking that it's all political, that this is entirely driven by politicians trying to get the Fed to do this for them?
Well, I do think what Elizabeth Warren said was, you know, these are the same people who say, oh, we have to keep the Fed politically independent. They can't take into account politics. And then she's calling for a 75 basis point reduction, 50 days before an election. Look, Steve Forbes nailed it. We may need lower interest rates now, but the fact is prosperity does not cause inflation. And here's my feeling about this. I want to go one point beyond what Steve was saying. The solution to our problems is not lower interest rates. The solution to our problems is to cut tax rates, not interest rates, and to do something about this massive government spending and debt, which nobody, does anything about in Washington. So if you really want to stimulate the economy, cut government spending and cut tax rates, and Kamala wants to do exactly the opposite.
And get rid of all those regulations, which are going to be forcing people to give up their gas cars, gas stoves, and anything else that makes life worth living in terms
and air
of
conditioning.
And air conditioning, in terms of modern conveniences. They seem to be against everyone, including some of the meat. So save your beef.
You mean
save the cows.
You mean individuals are better at spending their money than the federal government is? Right. All right, I want to move over to this real quickly. Illegal immigrants are pouring across the southern border under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And you know what? We should all be grateful, says the media. The New York Times finest, Paul Kargman writes, demonizing migrants could ruin the revival of some heartland cities. And how about this from Bloomberg? Migrants are settling in thriving blue counties, not red counties that need them most.
So, look, there's nobody who's contaminated our immigration system more than Joe Biden. He's undermined support for it. He's right that legal immigration is important. I just got back from the border. I was in Laredo, Texas last week, and it's amazing what's going on there. But people, and that's a largely Hispanic town, but people were saying there, yeah, we want the immigrants, but they got to come in legally. We can't have people flooding over the border. And the problem with this idea, we've got this, what do they call that, the comprehensive solution. They're going to grant amnesty to everybody, and then how is that going to deter future illegal immigration?
The fact that Biden and Harris and their ilk have allowed 10 million plus illegal migrants to come to this country, not enforcing the laws of the land, means that we will never have immigration reform in this country. And to try and paint conservatives as being racist, jingoistic, rednecks and rubes, because they're upset with illegal immigration is beyond the pale, Steve.
And legal immigrants also don't like the idea. They played by the rules. Now they're made to look like fools. And in terms of immigration, Steve Moore's exactly right. If we need immigrants, do it the legal way. We've been at it for 200 years, allowing people legally in to help the country. So let's go back to that. But I think one of the things that hopefully will happen in the next term is that we can get an environment where we can get a good comprehensive immigration bill where legal immigrants can come in. And we know who's coming into the country. How about that?
And, one of the things that obviously among the victims here are not just American citizens, but also illegals who are in the country that Democrats claim to care so much about, if you want the best thing to possibly happen to them, you fix the flow at the border and stop new ones from breaking the law and coming into the country.
How about the mothers and children who were drowning trying to cross the Rio Grande when this all started happening in 2021? You didn't hear nary a peep out of Biden and Harris.
Can I say one last quick thing on this?
Tens of thousands of kids, where are they?
Right.
I'm so sick and tired of people like Kamala Harris saying, we're only going to, enforce the border if you do all these other things. Why do we have to bargain with them to do what their job is, right? Which is to secure the border.
And she's the border czar.
Of course.
But obviously she's a mess on everything. Here's the $1 million question that Kamala Harris still can't answer.
Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
4 years ago, when we came in during the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. We came in during the worst public health epidemic in centuries. We came in after the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Is the price of groceries still too high? Yes. Do we have more work to do? Yes. And I will tell you, I do believe that I offer a new generation of leadership.
Let me translate that for you. I think the answer is no.
Well, exactly. And you'd never know that inflation was, what, 1.5%?
Yeah.
That jobs were coming back above the level of from the pandemic. We were recovering from that. Mm-hmm. You'd never know that the economy is growing at a nice pace before they took office. And so how do they explain that a year and a half later, after they take office, inflation has gone up fivefold, sixfold, prices are going up? Is that the new generation of leadership? No, we don't need a new generation. We need brains and good judgment.
The biggest lie, there's so many, it's hard to even wade through them, that they still to this day tell over and over again, is how the economy was just on its knees when we came into office. Yeah. Janet Yellen has said that. Yeah. And to Steve's point, the economy was growing at 35%. And then 4.2%, and it was growing at 5% in the quarter they passed the American Rescue Plan.
Yes, we had 11% growth in the second half of the year, which is a spectacular rate of growth. They came in and spent $5 trillion, and of course that was what launched the inflation. And the reason she doesn't want to answer the question is because inflation is up 20.2%, wages are up 18%, do the math. The average American is poorer today than they were 4 years ago.
And that doesn't include the interest rates they have to pay each month.
Yep.
The real interest, inflation rate is 6-7%, not the 3%. You do have to pay the loan on the car, credit card.
How about
debt,
when she says, "Oh, I got a housing plan. I got a housing plan. A housing plan. Why not lower mortgage interest rates by not having all this inflation?" That's what's caused Americans to lose the American dream. No young person can afford to buy a house today.
No, they put them in a vice.
Right.
These people put the American family and the American dream in a vice of inflation and sky-high interest rates. And at every day they turn it a little bit more. Shame on them.
And they say they're the solution.
Yeah, I've got a solution.
Malpractice.
Thank you, Steve.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Moore, great to see both of you in person.
I think I'm the better looking one, though.
Yeah. I'll tell you the real truth when you leave.